Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really common headache in the RC world. You told us about your 7.2 volt, 3000 milliamp hour NiMh buggy pack dying, and yeah, the symptoms are weird, really short run times, charges way too fast, and gets seriously hot.
Yeah, it sounds like three totally separate things going wrong, doesn't it? But what we're going to do in this deep dive, essentially, is an electrochemical autopsy.
Yeah.
We'll show that these aren't separate problems at all. They're actually, well, symptoms of a single unified syndrome. And it points to one root cause, one failure point inside that pack that's, frankly, irreversible.
Exactly. We're basically going to ignore that 3000 millirho number on the sticker. For now, it doesn't mean much anymore. Instead, we need to focus on this core idea of internal resistance, or IR.
Right.
We'll break down exactly why high IR is like a permanent condition for this battery, a kind of death sentence, really, that makes trying to keep using it not just pointless, but actually potentially dangerous.
So let's nail down this unified culprit. High internal resistance. What is it? Well, in simple terms, internal resistance, or IR, is just a measure of how much the battery itself resists the flow of electrical current passing through it.
Okay.
When your battery was fresh out of the box, its IR was incredibly low. Think of it like a brand new, super wide, clean highway for electrons. Energy could just flow freely, very efficiently.
But like everything, time and use take their toll, right? We're talking hundreds of charge and discharge cycles. Maybe it got left in the sun, maybe just age.
Precisely. Over time, the insides physically degrade. The electrodes change chemically. Those little porous separators between the plates can start to dry out a bit. You get, corrosion building up internally.
So stuff accumulating inside.
Exactly. It's like that clean highway getting clogged up with sludge and debris. All this accumulation builds up, creating this barrier, this resistance to current flow, and critically, it's irreversible.
So the battery's basically choked up inside, and that's what we measure as high IR.
That's it. High IR becomes the key number, the real indicator of a NiMh battery's health and its actual age, much more than the label capacity. And that high IR is the thread that connects all three of those confusing symptoms you're seeing.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's trace how this one hidden problem, high IR, causes three really different dramatic symptoms. Where should we start? The most frustrating one, maybe?
Yeah.
Your RC buggy just dies after like 2 minutes, even on a full charge.
Yeah, that's a textbook case of voltage sag. And it comes down to basic electrical physics happening inside the battery cells themselves. When the battery is under load, meaning your buggy's motor is trying to pull a lot of current, maybe 10, 20, even 40 amps when you punch the gas.
Right, it's accelerating hard.
That demand creates an immediate problem. The voltage you actually get out of the battery terminals is instantly reduced. It's reduced by the amount of voltage that's lost, just forcing the current through that internal resistance.
Ah, okay, so the resistance acts like a tax.
It's a perfect analogy. A mandatory tax on every amp you pull. And if the internal resistance, the IR, is high, that tax becomes cripplingly expensive in terms of voltage lost.
And when that voltage gets taxed too heavily?
The output voltage just plummets instantly. That massive drop is what we call voltage sag. Now, here's the key part. Even if the battery chemically still holds, say, 80% of its charge.
It still has energy inside.
Right. But that instantaneous voltage sag drops the output voltage below the minimum level your speed controller needs to operate.
That's the low voltage cutoff, the LVC setting.
Exactly. For a typical 6-cell NiMh pack, the LVC might be set around maybe 5.4 volts, just to protect the electronics.
Yeah.
So you hit the throttle, the high IR causes a massive voltage sag, it dips below 5.4 volts instantly, and boom, the LVC trips.
The buggy shuts down.
It shuts down, thinking the battery's totally flat, even though it isn't, chemically speaking.
Wow. Okay, so the energy isn't fake, it's just trapped. That 3000 milliamp capacity is real, but the high IR has basically slammed a vault door shut, making that power useless for anything demanding high current.
That's a great way to put it.
This really changes things. It means the internal resistance, not the number on the label, is the real measure of whether the battery is actually useful anymore.
Absolutely. That's the critical insight. Okay, so that explains the short run times. Now let's tackle mystery number 2. Why does it seem to charge so darn fast? If it's got trapped energy, shouldn't it take a while to fill up?
Yeah, that seems counterintuitive. We know smart chargers are pretty clever. They look for a specific signal that says, okay, I'm full now. What happens when high IR messes with that signal?
That signal they're looking for is called negative delta V, sometimes called delta peak detection. It's actually a neat little trick.
Okay.
A healthy NiMh battery, when it gets completely full, saturated chemically, it can't really store any more electrical energy as chemical energy. So
Huh.
the incoming current starts getting converted directly into heat. This chemical shift causes a very slight but very predictable drop in the battery's terminal voltage. Tiny, maybe 5 millivolts per cell.
Ah, the negative delta V.
Exactly. That tiny voltage dip is the charger's cue. Okay, stop the fast charge now. We're full.
Our battery isn't healthy. It's got high IR, so when we start pushing charging current into it,
All hell breaks loose, electronically speaking. That high internal resistance causes an immediate, really unstable, and much larger voltage spike right from the get-go. It doesn't behave smoothly like a healthy battery.
so it's erratic.
Very erratic. And the charger's sensitive detection algorithm sees one of these early, large, unstable voltage spikes, followed by a random dip as the voltage bounces around, and it misinterprets that dip as the real, definitive negative delta V signal.
Wait, seriously, so the battery is essentially feeding the charger bad information. Even a brand new, expensive charger would be fooled.
Precisely. The battery sends out a false electrical signature because of its internal damage. The charger thinks, there's the delta V peak must be full, and it terminates the fast charge way, way too early.
Wow.
It might have only put in a tiny fraction of the battery's actual capacity before shutting off. So the charger isn't faulty, the battery's lying to it.
That makes total sense now. Okay, third symptom, and this one sounds a bit worrying. The heat. You said it gets uncomfortably hot to the touch during this short charging cycle.
Yes, and this is directly linked to the high IR again. That resistance is literally turning your charging current into waste heat. Remember how we said IR fights the current flow?
Yeah.
Well, pushing current through any resistance generates heat. It's called resistive heating. Think of your battery now not just as a chemical storage device, but also as having a big resistor wired in series with that storage part.
So instead of efficiently storing the energy from the charger,
A large chunk of it gets immediately wasted as heat, thanks to that high internal resistance. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. A lot of water just spills out. Here, the energy spills out as heat.
so it's acting more like a little space heater than a battery.
That's a perfect analogy. A healthy battery might convert, say, 90% or more of the charging current into stored chemical energy. But a high IR pack, it might be wasting 30%, 40%, maybe even 50% as pure heat right from the start of the charge.
And the physics of that, the heating formula.
Its power equals current squared times resistance. P, I when U is R. So the heat generated goes up dramatically with high resistance. Double the resistance, you double the heat for the same current. And because the charger is often pushing a few amps in.
That I squared term means the heat can ramp up really fast.
Exactly. And this excessive heat isn't just inefficient, it actively damages the battery further. Remember the degradation we talked about? Heat accelerates all those unwanted chemical reactions.
It's a vicious cycle.
Absolutely. It's a destructive feedback loop. The heat can cause the liquid electrolyte inside to actually boil, generating hydrogen gas. That builds up serious internal pressure.
Which could lead to...
Could lead to the cell physically venting, popping open and releasing that corrosive potassium hydroxide electrolyte. Or, in a worst-case scenario, a more violent rupture. Any battery getting that hot during a normal charge cycle is telling you it's breaking down internally. It absolutely needs to be taken out of service immediately.
Okay, so the diagnosis is clear. Terminal high IR. Before we even think about what replaces it, let's cover triage and safety. For our listener holding this problematic pack, what are the absolute stop everything, this is dangerous physical signs?
Right. Safety first, always.
Yeah.
Critical inspection time. You need to look closely at the pack. Is it bulging or swollen anywhere? The plastic wrap looks puffy, or the individual cells look rounded instead of flat.
What does that mean?
That means high internal gas pressure, that hydrogen gas we mentioned. That's a major red flag. Also, look for any leaks. Often it looks like a white, powdery, or crystalline crust, usually around the seams or ends of the cells. That's dried potassium hydroxide electrolyte, and it's corrosive.
Nasty stuff.
Very. Also, any obvious physical damage, punctures in the wrap or cells, deep, dense, heavy rust, or corrosion on the metal terminals. Any of those signs mean is a definite lost cause. Do not even think about charging or using a pack that looks like that.
Okay, crystal clear. Now, what about those miracle cures you see online? People in forums are always posting, oh, just cycle it a few times, or refresh it for a battery like this. Why is that bad advice for a high IR pack?
Yeah, the cycling or refresh function on some chargers it has its place. It was originally designed to combat the old memory effect in really old NiSide or early NiMh cells, or sometimes to balance out cells in a pack that's just been sitting for ages and got a bit uneven.
But that's not our problem here.
Exactly. Our problem isn't memory effect. It's permanent physical damage causing high IR. Trying to cycle this battery is just pointless. It will repeatedly hit that false peak we talked about. The charge will cut off early. It'll generate a ton of damaging heat each time, and you'll waste hours achieving absolutely nothing. It doesn't fix the underlying physical problem.
Okay, what about the other one I see? Manual boosting or zapping. People say, oh, just briefly connect it to a good battery for a second, it'll shock it back to life. They often add, worked for me. Is that legit or just incredibly risky?
That one is extremely dangerous in this specific situation. Zapping or boosting does have one very narrow, specific, legitimate use. It's for jump-starting a perfectly healthy battery cell that has simply been discharged so low, maybe below 0.8 volts per cell, that a smart charger won't even recognize it's connected.
Okay, so for an over-discharged healthy cell only.
Correct. But applying that same technique to our battery, which we know is internally damaged and has high IR, that's potentially catastrophic.
Why happens electrically?
You're simply bypassing all the safety checks. The healthy battery you connect it to will try to dump a massive amount of current into the failing high IR battery instantly. It creates something close to a dead short circuit inside the damaged cell. Yeah. That huge, uncontrolled current slams into that high internal resistance, and remember PIRR. That generates an immense amount of heat, extremely localized in fractions of a second. You're risking immediate violent cell rupture, venting caustic chemicals, possibly even fire and serious burns. The safety advice is unequivocal. Never, ever try to vap or boost a battery you suspect has high internal resistance or internal damage.
Got it. Don't do it. So this battery's done, kaput. But its demise actually gives us a chance to think strategically. This is the perfect moment to decide what kind of performance you actually want from your RC buggy going forward. What are the main options?
Right. It's an upgrade opportunity. You've basically got three main paths for replacement power sources, each with its own pros and cons. Option one, stick with NiMh.
Okay, the familiar choice.
Yeah, you could get a brand new, maybe even higher capacity NiMh back. The pros, they're super durable, really tough, relatively low cost up front, and maintenance is dead simple. Charge it, run it, repeat, pretty much plug and play.
But the downside?
The downsides are still there. They're heavy, which definitely impacts handling, agility, jumping. And they always suffer from that voltage sag we discussed. You get a good punch initially, but the speed and power noticeably fade during the run as the voltage drops.
All right, option two. This is where things get exciting for speed demons, right? LiPo.
Cobalt, lithium polymer. Yep, this is generally the go-to for performance, especially racing. The advantages are significant. Much lighter weight than NiMh, which means better acceleration, handling, everything. Superior power delivery. And crucially, LiPo batteries have a very flat discharge curve.
Meaning?
Meaning the voltage stays relatively high and consistent throughout almost the entire run. Your buggy feels just as fast and punchy at minute 8 as it did at minute 1. Plus, they usually have a slightly higher nominal voltage, like 7.4 volts versus 7.2 for NiMh, giving a bit more speed potential.
Sounds great, but what's the catch? There's always a catch.
The catch is complexity and safety. LiPo batteries require very specific care. You must use a balance charger every time to keep the individual cells matched. You can never discharge them below a certain safe voltage, usually around 3.0 to 3.3 volts per cell. They need to be stored at a specific storage charge voltage, usually around 3.8 volts per cell if you're not using them for a while.
That's a lot to manage.
It is. And they are more fragile. If you puncture them, overcharge them, short them out, or physically damage them, they can be volatile. They can swell up rapidly and potentially enter thermal runaway, which means fire. You really need proper handling protocols, like using LiPo-safe charging bags. The initial cost is also usually higher.
Okay, so high performance, high maintenance, higher risk. What about a middle ground? You mentioned a third option, life.
Life, yes. Lithium iron phosphate, sometimes written as LiFePO4. This is often seen as the safer lithium chemistry, kind of bridging the gap. Their big pro is safety. They are inherently much more stable and resistant to thermal runaways than LiPo. It's very hard to make them catch fire.
That's a huge plus.
Huge. They're also much more tolerant of storage conditions. You don't need to be quite as strict about storage voltage as with LiPo, and they often boast a very long cycle life, meaning they can handle more charge-discharge cycles before degrading.
Okay, safety and longevity sound good. What are the performance trade-offs compared to LiPo?
The main trade-off is a lower nominal voltage. A two-cell life pack is typically 6.6 volts compared to 7.4 for LiPo or 7.2 for NiMh. This means slightly less top speed and maybe a bit less punch off the line compared to a high-performance LiPo. They're also usually a bit heavier than a comparable LiPo pack, though still lighter than NiMh.
So maybe not the absolute peak performance, but safer and easier to live with than LiPo.
Exactly. So the strategic choice really boils down to your priorities. If you want maximum speed, consistent power for racing, and you're willing to manage the risks and complexity, LiPo is the way. If you want budget-friendly simplicity and ruggedness, and don't mind the performance fade, stick with NiMh. If safety, durability, and ease of use are top priorities, but you still want better performance than NiMh without the LiPo hassle, then Life is an excellent choice.
That's a great summary. Okay, so our listener picks their upgrade path. But before they run out and buy it, what are the final, absolutely critical safety steps for dealing with the old, damaged NiMh pack?
Right. Decommissioning the old pack safely. Step 1, immediately after its last use or failed charge, disconnect it from everything. Then it needs to be stored safely immediately. Put it in a fire-resistant container.
Like what?
A sturdy ceramic pot, maybe an old metal ammo can. Some people use a bucket of sand or place it on a concrete floor in the garage. The key is put it somewhere cool, well-ventilated, and away from anything flammable. Don't just leave it sitting on your wooden workbench or near curtains.
Okay, stored safely. What's the most critical thing you have to do before you even move it to that spot? Or definitely before taking it anywhere?
Insulate the terminals completely. Get some good electrical tape or even thick packing tape in a pinch and wrap it securely around the connector, covering all exposed metal parts of the plug. Make absolutely sure nothing conductive can accidentally touch those terminals.
Why is that so vital, even for a dead battery?
Because dead is relative, especially with a damaged battery. It almost certainly still holds some residual charge, maybe erratically. If something metal like keys in your pocket, a tool, another battery connector accidentally bridges those terminals.
Short circuit.
Instant short circuit. It can dump whatever remaining energy it has in a massive uncontrolled burst of current. That generates intense heat instantly, enough to melt plastic, start a fire, cause burns, even if the pack wouldn't run your buggy for 10 seconds. Taping the terminals eliminates that risk during handling, storage, and transport for recycling. Cannot skip this step.
Okay, taped up, pulled down, stored safely. Then what? Can't just chuck it in the bin, right?
Absolutely not. Batteries contain heavy metals and caustic chemicals. Responsible recycling is essential. Your local town or city waste authority usually has specific instructions or collection points for household hazardous waste, which includes batteries. There are also national programs like Call to Recycle in North America, often with drop-off points at hardware stores or electronic retailers. Some manufacturers also have take-back programs. Check their websites or your local council site.
Good advice. So let's wrap this up. Thinking about the bigger picture from this whole experience, what's the fundamental takeaway?
I think it highlights a really crucial truth about any kind of stored energy, not just RC batteries. That capacity number printed on the label, the 3000 mAh, in this case, it becomes almost meaningless if the internal resistance is climbed too high.
Right.
The energy might technically be there, but if you can't get it out efficiently when you need it, especially under high load, then the capacity rating is just academic. It doesn't reflect the battery's actual usefulness.
So what should you, our listener, take away from all this? I guess the lesson is pretty profound, isn't it? When you're looking at any battery for a demanding job, your Archie car, your power drill, maybe even your car battery, you need to shift your thinking.
Yeah.
Don't just focus on the amp hours or the voltage. Ask the Depper question. Is that power truly accessible? Or is it potentially trapped behind a growing wall of internal resistance? Understanding that difference, focusing on power delivery and not just capacity. That insight really changes how you choose your power sources, how you maintain them, and definitely how you think about safety.